Metro of Layton City is caught in a traffic-related incident, as are a couple of other members of our committee. And so we're going to get started without them, and hopefully everybody is safe on their way in this morning. And want to say welcome to everybody online. So the way we'll approach this until Mayor Petro gets here is we'll do our roll call and skip over the action item of the minutes, and we'll let Mayor Petro handle that when she arrives. And we'll jump into some of the chair report items as we wait for Mayor Petro. So if it's okay, let's do a roll call for people present in the room. And then we'll go online, Jordan, after we do that. If that's okay. Can we start with you, Rosie?
Rosie Hernandez, WFRC.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC.
Lauren Victor, WFRC.
Dallin Borman, WFRC intern.
Byron Head, WFRC.
Che Mesqueda, WFRC.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Plan Group, WFRC.
Jared Bowling, Planning UDOT.
Andrew Gruber with WFRC.
Hugh Van Wagenen with WFRC.
Ed Knowlton, Deputy Director, WFRC.
David Mitchell, Davis County.
Chris Wiltsey, Bike Utah.
Sorry about that, Chris. Jeff Euler, Davis County.
Eric Buell, UDOT Trails Division.
Steph Tomlin, UDOT Trails Division.
Zach Geiger, Cottonwood Heights Active Transportation Committee.
John Nichols, Parametrics.
Elliot Mott, Volunteer Organizer.
Bill Harris, WFRC.
Does everybody online want to introduce themselves since we have such a small group?
Hi, Richard Heyer from Ogden City.
Brittany Ward, Sandy City.
Travis Moult, Willard City.
Mark Bradley, Brigham City.
Braden Mitchell, Riverdale City.
From Kiff, Utah Department of Health and Human Services.
Wendelin Knoblauch, Midvale City.
Michelle Larson, Utah Transit Authority.
Kendall Willardson with MAG.
Suzanne Harrison, Salt Lake County Council.
Well done, people online. That was impressive. It's almost like you did that in some order. You didn't talk over each other. I see Commissioner Fackrell has joined us, and Commissioner, drive safe. We know that you got stuck in the same accident on I-15 that others did. So drive safe, and we'll see you shortly.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Councilmember Manzione, did you have a chance to introduce yourself?
Marisa Manzione, Twila City Council.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody.
Andrew, this is Commissioner Fackrell. I also have with me Mayor Gale from Morgan City.
Your regular traveling buddy. Thank you.
That's correct.
As mentioned before, we'll jump over item 1B on the agenda and jump to item 2, the chair's report, and talk a little bit about Bike Month. As everybody knows, I'm sure knows, May was Bike Month, although it would be lovely to have every month be Bike Month and not just May. So think about that for a little bit. But there were some great events that happened, including the Golden Spoke Ride, which was in its 6th year, annual event of celebrating the 100+ miles of separated pathway from Ogden to Provo. And there's a number of partners that helped put on the event this year. I'll just give a little recap from my experience. So this great interactive map this year that was put together by Sarah Lawless, the WFRC analytics team. And there were a number of events associated with the ride this year. You could start in the Ogden area, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, and ride down to South Salt Lake, Mill Creek area, or you could start in Provo and ride north, or you could have started in Mill Creek and ridden west, or you could have joined in at the end spot at the Tracy Aviary Jordan River Nature Center and done some smaller family rides of 3 and 6 miles. There's a little bit of a pivot this year in the Ogden area due to flooding that's happened on the Ogden River Parkway and the Weaver River Parkway. A number of underpasses are probably still underwater with all the amount of water we've had this year. And so we had to change our start point to the Roy Frontrunner Station. And fortunately, this ride is set up so that you can jump on Frontrunner in any number of places all along the Wasatch Front. And we had folks meet us in Roy right off the Frontrunner Station there and ride down. And it was a great experience. So I'll just share a couple of photos along the way. These folks I recognize from years past, actually. They're regulars that come and join us every year, which is awesome. This was on the Denver and Rio Grande Western Rail Trail in the Farmington area. See what kind of delay is on this thing. There were rest stops along the way as well. I mentioned Farmington. If you're coming up from Provo, there's a rest stop in Lehigh as well. And once you got, again, to the Tracy Aviary Jordan River Nature Center, which is about 50 miles from the start of the Ogden and Provo, or 40 from Roy, this is where we all gathered to start the family rides, thanks to Healthy West Valley that sponsored those. Move Utah was there with their tents. And if you haven't experienced the Jordan River Nature Center here, just off of 33rd South, it is really lovely. Encourage you all to get out there when you have a chance. So a number of booths there set up with information from different partners, and including food trucks. Everybody that participated got a food voucher for either donut kebabs or some more hearty food. You can see it was really fun. Here's Mayor Burton speaking to some folks as well as he joined the end of the ride. The Jordan River Commission, also a really big partner in this effort to put this on every year. And then, yes, Japanese fried chicken was quite popular for folks at the end of the ride. So really fun event. There were over 300 people that came through this ending spot, which is the largest number of folks that have come since we've started, well, in the last couple of years, especially post-COVID. So the event continues to be successful, and we appreciate everybody's help and all our partners that help put that on, UTA, the health departments, West Valley, Mill Creek. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, Move Utah, all those folks. And welcome, Mayor Petro. Glad you got here safely. Yeah. So we, oh, Andrew.
Before you leave the Golden Spoke ride description, I just want to tell one little story, which is after doing the ride, I rode from Mill Creek and it was terrific. And at the actual, the nature center where people were gathered, some of you were there. It was a really nice gathering. And I had the opportunity to talk with a few folks and actually who were willing to speak to the media also. There was a story about it. But just two groups I'll tell you. One, there was a family there, 3 generations, 2 kids, mom and dad and grandpa, and they all rode their bikes together for several miles on the Jordan River Trail and came out. And they talk about how they love riding the trail and how riding bikes together is a big part of their family, 3 generations. That was really cool. And there was a tandem bike where there was a adult daughter, and her father who's legally blind. And they ride together all the time too. And he rides in the back, obviously, and ride like long distances. And they had come from like somewhere up your way, Mayor Petro, somewhere up like in the Layton or something area. And also just love the Jordan River Trail. And it's something that they do together as a father-daughter. And so it was just a great representation of sort of the breadth of riders who get out and use these trail systems when they are safe. And so that's what we're working towards.
Okay, I want to once again apologize for being late, but not much you can do when it's a standstill in traffic up north. We need to go back up and take care of our minutes from our meeting held April 9th. So is there any corrections on those? If not, then I'll take a motion to accept. In other words, I need somebody to make a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, hopefully not so long for a second. Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Travis Moat.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as written. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any nays? Okay, thank you, you guys.
Mayor, I'll just note for all the folks that are online, please feel free to participate and we'll keep an eye out. If you want to say something, just speak up or raise your hand literally or electronically, and we'll keep an eye on you.
Ready to move on to there then? Okay, we're going to go ahead and go on to item number 2B, which is the Beehive Bikeway update. And again, this is important to the Golden Spoke network that you've just previously discussed, and how the Golden Spoke has led to the Beehive Bikeway initiative and the trail connectivity that expands upon the Golden Spoke network. So specifically linking the Wasatch Choice Center, and our expert here, or the one that I know that has the most information on it, is Ted. So Ted, do you mind filling everybody in on this?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. And I'm just the one that's willing to talk about it here today. But this is such an exciting time in advancing this idea of, like the Golden Spoke, really safe, family-friendly routes, but that get you to the places that you want to get to. And we're going to hear about the Utah Trail Network here in just a second. But I was just talking to a friend. I'm going to give you an update, but before I do that, one quick anecdote. I was just talking to a friend, and I just brought up the notion of active transportation, and she said, well, did you see the article in the newspaper the other day about this idea of a bike highway system, bike highways? And she said that concept of bike highways really resonated with her and her entire family, and that they were very excited about it. And I was trying to think about, I know that sometimes the active transportation community doesn't always love the relationship, the analog with the highway, but it's very understandable. Highways, there's not as much conflict. It's super visible. Lots of people use it. Everybody knows where they are, right? Well, we'll hear about the Utah Trail Network, but think about how much money, how much of a system of highways that UTN can build. I think that our UDOT friends might follow me up on this, that with their money, they can't build an overall network of bike highways everywhere. But we can do a lot of that if we work collaboratively. So Beehive Bikeways is extending what the Utah Trail Network can do with their funding. Here's what we have done and where we're headed with that Beehive Bikeways idea. We had a series of Wasatch Choice Vision workshops last fall where we brainstormed ideas of how do you connect Wasatch Choice centers with safe, comfortable, family-friendly facilities. We've put together a draft map, and now what we're doing is we're in the middle of taking that draft map to each community and saying, did we get it right? Should we shift this? Where do we go from here? We were about halfway through meeting with communities. If we haven't met with your community, we would love to do that. In the next steps, we'll continue to coordinate with the Utah Trail Network towards the idea of developing a plan for an overall network, regardless of how it is funded. And then we'll go through the process of working with willing communities along natural corridors and advancing those so that they're part of this idea of bike highways. That's kind of where we're at. If you're interested in being part of this conversation in your community, we would love to do that. And Hugh, I know that you might have something that you think, oh, Ted, you missed fill in the blank, or Ted, can you blessedly stop talking either way? Do you have anything you want
It's
to
the
add
latter,
here?
so we're good.
All right. Mayor, that's the update on the Beehive Bike Network, part of that bike highway system of planning in collaboration with Utah Trail Network.
And you guys have done a great job reaching out to all the different areas, and I know that we've participated in that, and I look forward to it. And we're very fortunate in my city where we've just gone through an active transportation plan, and so we've identified several different areas. But the key thing here is to work with your neighbors, north and south. And so if every city takes that concept in mind, then that's what's going to extend this highway that we're after. So, and I love the logo, by the way. Once we got it figured out. Okay, did you have something else, you?
Yeah, I'll go on to C
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I should say that there is a little bit of a website presence for the Beehive Bikeway. It's also online. Perfect. Okay.
Jordan added the link to the Beehive Bikeways on the chat.
You want me to jump in, Mayor? Sorry, I totally cut
Yes.
out your intro.
Yeah, no,
but
that's okay.
I'll just
That's,
jump in.
I'm all about getting things
Okay,
done. So
so
go on to
Ted,
C.
Ted mentioned the Utah Trail Network, and in May, the Transportation Commission authorized the first round of programming from the Utah Trail Network, first funding from that state fund. Let's call it the Utah Trail Network. So in the MAG and WFRC areas, there was $40.2 million worth of projects that were funded, 8 construction projects and 2 planning and environmental review projects. So I'll just go over those really quickly, but very exciting for, again, these prospects in the northern part of our region. You see on this map, anything that is surrounded in orange is a study. Anything in this sort of magenta pink is a project. So the 3-Gate Trail received money to undergo that planning and environmental review study. And then a crossing, a grade separated crossing in Clinton at 2050 North as part of the Clinton Trail system. Also received funding there. Work our way south. Sorry, and the other blue lines were other projects that were considered but did not receive funding in this first round. The 3900 South separated trail from the Jordan River Parkway to about Main Street, West Temple. Thanks, Steph. Turn some time to you in just a second. The Bingham Creek Trail from the Bingham Creek Regional Park to the Jordan River Parkway and to the east, and also from the park to Mountain View Corridor received funding. The Welby Jacobs Canal through Riverton from 126 South to 138 South. And then a trail connection in Bluffdale from their federally funded crossing of the railroad tracks and overhead pedestrian bridge to make sure folks can get to the Jordan River Parkway that is really nearby in the WFRC area. In the MAG area, the 800 North Vineyard Pathway received construction money, as well as some study money in the Heber Valley Railroad in this orange, and then 2 sections of the Heber Valley Railroad, A and C, I think, phases A and C, received some funding. So really exciting to kick that off, and there's more to come. And speaking of more to come, Stephanie Tomlin with the Utah Trail Network is here, and do you want to speak of what's coming?
Sure.
Speak to what's coming?
Yes, yeah, thanks, Hugh. Yeah, great overview. Super exciting to get those first projects programmed. Yeah, the total amount across the whole state was around $95 million. So, and kind of awesome to see that going. So yeah, the next steps. So those projects that Hugh just talked about, as well as all the others that we funded across the state, those are all getting a UDOT region project manager. So you probably know which region you're in, 1, 2, 3, or 4. They will be assigned a UDOT to that region project manager. Eric and I are working with those project managers in the next couple of weeks to go through and give them information that they need to kind of start moving these projects forward. So this is things like local government agreement information. If you were a contact on one of those projects, you know that we already reached out to you several times up until the point that the project got programmed. So we want to make sure that that information then gets transferred to the project manager. So things like the local government agreements, as well as the local contact information, everything from the agreements themselves to the, to information on who should the project manager reach out to as they, start working on the project. But yeah, super exciting. Those construction projects, we're going to get, moving on design and construction in pretty short order, as well as the planning studies. So that's generally, I guess, next steps on those. So you'll be hearing back from the project manager. And that'll be the point of contact for that project moving forward. We'll be kind of, I guess, lightly involved, but mostly it'll be the project manager. So any questions about that? And I did just have one other little update on Utah Trail Network, if I may, but anything on those programmed projects? Awesome. Okay. So the other update I just wanted to
Steph,
make. Oh,
Just
yeah.
before you move off of that,
Yes.
I can't let the moment go by without saying how
Celebration?
exciting it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? I know, I feel like I do this every time we talk about the Utah Trail Network, but
The
now
biggest hype person.
funding, what did you
Yeah.
say?
The biggest hype person in the room is
Well,
you, in a good way.
I mean, come on, like,
Yeah.
we've been working on this for years. It was a huge step forward that the state said we're going to provide ongoing money, $45 million a year, which paired together, how much did you say was the initial round?
95.
$95 million of state money for trail investment. And now it's happening. This is, this is the birth of this Utah Trail Network with this funding. It's a really, really big deal and it's worth celebrating. So
Yes.
May I add
With
one
that.
thing? May I add one more?
Sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Stephanie, are you going to send us out the list of who those people are that are individuals that are over our region?
The project managers.
As project managers?
Yeah, so if a project, I think if you're a stakeholder on the project, yes, you will be, notified because that'll be the point of contact that you'll have moving forward. I'm not going to send a list to everyone of all the project managers working on those projects necessarily.
All right. The other question I have is, or not a question, this is more of a comment. Listening to it on the way down, or the beginning part about this, the bike trail from Ogden to wherever it was, it would be nice for everybody to be able to go east up through Weber Canyon. And I know that was taken off the list. So I would like to see that put back on as soon as we can.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. That actually kind of leads me to this next thing that I wanted to mention. But really quick, I did also want to, Eric Buell sitting next to me here, he's the program manager for Trails. So he's I don't know if we had done a formal introduction before, but he's the one kind of overseeing all of the, money, getting to the spots, getting to the project managers and things of that nature. So he does a lot more in the kind of programming space than I do. So shout out to Eric Buell. Okay. So the next thing that I did want to mention is, so a reminder, I guess, around this first programming. We've said it a couple of times, but it bears repeating. We don't yet have a full kind of where the Utah Trail Network is map plan in place. We had to move kind of fast and furious, right? We had received this money. We moved fast and furious because people have really great plans already in place. It made it relatively easy to go in and say, okay, where should we fund this first round of funding? But I don't think that was ever meant to kind of replace the idea of going in and saying really strategically, where should our regional kind of highway routes be for active transportation? So we did that first round of programming. And now we're about to embark on a very big effort to establish where the first phase of the Utah Trail Network is. I'd like you to kind of close your eyes almost and imagine a map of the state of Utah where you can see the Utah Trail Network lines crisscrossing all across the state. Like that is what this effort will result in. Want to be clear, we'll definitely update this periodically. This is not a one chance, right, to get on the UTN map, but it is then this will be the map and the network that we then year after year, when we program projects, we're going to be programming projects off of that map. It's a really, it's an important thing to do so that every year we're not kind of scrambling to do a massive outreach effort, but instead are being pretty strategic. You know, think about a highway network. We didn't just kind of, you know, decide every year where we were going to put it. It was a vision, and then we kind of worked through it year by year. So we'll be embarking on that first phase in the next like month or two. We'll get kicked off on that. And a hugely important part of that is to understand everyone's planned projects. So I just want to, you know, prep you all that we will be reaching out in the next week or two for your updated active transportation plan. We will take it in whatever form, preferably GIS, but I will have someone on board to make sure that we are, if it's PDF, we'll go in and, you know, kind of geolocate those lines. But I just really can't impress upon you all enough the importance of an updated, you know, kind of plan map. And I know that we've been working as we've been collaborating on this, but I just, you know, as like the MPOs and the AOGs, but again, we want to make sure that we're starting with the latest and greatest. And if there's any gaps in that, we'll make sure to get it updated. So just wanted to let you know that'll be happening and that we'll be reaching out on that, and really, really greatly appreciate, because that's then where we'll start, is looking at those planned facilities and then making, you know, some, you know, planning decisions from there. So.
Staff question.
Sure.
So there's a lot of city and county folks here, and there's folks from WFRC, that's our agency, WFRC and MAG. And so, like, let's say you're Scott Hess. Scott, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late. I was stuck in the Davis County traffic too. So Scott Hess with North Ogden City. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director.
Okay, so let's say Scott Hess from North Ogden just heard your request to provide maps. And then but then Scott also works with Weber County, and then Scott he coordinates with WFRC. And so are you literally asking Scott from North Ogden and Weber County and WFRC to send something to you, even if they are all sort of overlapping? Help everybody understand what you actually want.
If in fact they are all, like, if the MPO or if the AOG that you're working on, you can ensure that they have your latest and greatest, I'm happy to just take one, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything. Yeah. So, I mean, we're happy to be the kind of, like, have it be complicated on our end in terms of figuring out, okay, which one, like, do we have like the most up-to-date information from, but like from our perspective, kind of looking at this across the entire state outside of MPO boundaries, we find that like we don't have necessarily everything completely updated. So if I'll leave it to you all to kind of let me know, yeah, hey, I work with WFRC, I work with MAG, I work with the AOG, they have it, and then I can get that information from them. I'm fine with that. I just, like, to my understanding, we don't necessarily have 100% airtight, kind of locked down process on getting data kind of shared and transferred. So in that case, I'm just wanting to make sure that we end up with the latest and greatest.
You're erring on the side of more information is better, and then you're coordinating with Hugh and with folks at MAG also, and we can work together with you to make sure that everything is captured, and that consistency from state level to regional to local, county and city is really important. So,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You good? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, super exciting. Well, so there will be a lot more information to come on this effort. In fact, I've kind of have I have the blessing from Hugh that we can use this group at some point for some workshops as part of this effort. So know that will be coming. And yeah, we're really excited to kind of get moving on this, like the larger visioning exercise. So yeah, thanks for the time.
Okay. Thank you for that update on that. And obviously, I think the message is well convened in the fact that we need all the latest and greatest information. And right away, I know that I'm familiar with the 3 great trail, obviously, and love the fact that that's gotten funding, but we've already identified the extension of that within our city on how we can kind of help build that. And knowing the purpose of what the overall goal is with that trail. So I want to acknowledge, I know it's been kind of tough on all of us up north as far as getting to this meeting. We've had, Mayor Gale join us, and Mayor Mon's online, I know now, and Commissioner, we appreciate you guys being here, and, we've already had the introduction with Ogden, or Scott, so yeah, thank you. Again, we appreciate everyone's patience. Okay, this is a,
Dee Dee from
Oh.
UTA is here also,
Dee,
and there's
yes,
some other
thank you.
folks that joined online, and we welcome everybody.
yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go to our public comment portion of the meeting. So this is where if anybody in the audience has a comment they want to bring before us that's not listed on the agenda, then we're certainly welcome to entertain that. You need to step up to the podium and state your name and where you're from, if you so choose so.
Elliot shook his head no, surprisingly. Next time, Elliot. And it doesn't, is there anybody online that wants to make a comment? No? Okay.
Okay, good. Then we'll move right along. Then we'll go on to item number 4 of our agenda, which is the Bike Utah mobile active transportation tours. So we have for many years had the Bike Utah, and has led out with this mobile active transportation tour, or MATS, which provide on the ground experience of biking and walking. And Chris Wiltsey is the director and is going to give us an update here on the bike tours, or MAT in other words.
I just want to update everybody that me and Hugh's daughters played soccer against each other, representing Bike Utah and WFRC, and Bike Utah won. So I know I'm in enemy territory right now, and we're both coaching the teams. So
Friendly competition.
putting that out there. Okay. Mobile active transportation tours. You may be wondering, what is a MAT? Okay, so a MAT is a way that we can go out and see different types of infrastructure around walking and biking. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means, but what it kind of looks like is both local and out of state. So this is a picture of Daybreak. Mike West, he's online. He helps us a lot with these tours. We've actually done tours with the Salt Lake Tribune to show them around as well. We do them with like government stakeholders and different staff members, elected officials, like you name it, we've done it with them. Daybreak is interesting because they're doing a lot of sort of forward-thinking infrastructure in a suburban context. So you could go there, let's say if you were in a suburban community, and you could see how they're doing it, and you could get some ideas, maybe because every community is going to be different. So it's not like you need to be Daybreak, but maybe there's some stuff there. And then the out-of-state ones, this is Davis, California. So right, I like eat, sleep, breathe bikes, kind of, but like recreationally, professionally, right? You'd think, oh, this guy, he knows a lot. But then I went to Davis, California. I don't know anything. Like, I learned so much in this trip. This was last year. A lot of folks from WFRC and different government entities came on that trip. And I still, like, internally at Bike Utah, I talk about stuff I learned there. And our programming has like shifted relative to some of the things I learned on that trip. And so likewise, I think anybody could go on these mobile active transportation tours and learn something and gain new insights.
Chris, isn't it fair to say that it's almost more valuable the less you know? If you're not an avid biker, you go on these tours and the sort of rate of learning is higher, right? And everybody's welcome.
For sure. And yeah, when we create these groups of people, I love that comment. When we put these groups together, we try to make it a range of people. So like people who are like really bought in, maybe people who are just curious, aren't sure. And so we can have interesting conversations. And so it's not just this sort of like bubble of like, you know, we're just talking in a circle or whatever. So yeah, it's really good in that regard. I've done one, it was in Provo with MAG a while back, and we took a business or in the group there was a business owner, and there was this like pretty gnarly road that we were riding on. It was really scary. And then we got onto the new Bulldog Boulevard, which is a protected bike lane. And then he said when we got done and we were eating lunch, he's like, I never understood why that existed until now. Like, because he'd never rode it before. And it was like that juxtaposition of those two different facility types, one being not great and the other being what we strive for. So I think we can all learn a lot, including myself, from these trips. So why do we do them? I've kind of answered that to some degree, but to give more context, at Bike Utah, we have this, next one. We have this framework that we use. It's based off of the Federal Highway Administration's framework that they have put out. But basically the idea is as speeds and number of vehicles increase, so should the intensity of infrastructure. And so what that means is that if you're starting at like slower speeds, 0 to 25 miles per hour, you're just putting in infrastructure to reinforce that speed limit, so traffic calming. And then you might get into a more urban environment and you want to increase that separation. So you might have a curb that separates out people from automobiles. And then finally, in more like an arterial, you want to further increase that separation. So now we're talking about like urban trails and things like that, where you have trees and large areas of grass that are separating this out. So we do have this in Utah, and that's why we do these local mats, but that's also why we go abroad, or not abroad, out of state, because we want to get a different flavor than maybe we have here in state. But we're kind of getting to the point now in Utah, we're like hitting this critical mass where we actually have like really good examples across the spectrum. But that's kind of the goal, is to show this contextualized within different types of communities. So not just urban, not just Salt Lake City, but also suburban and rural and all these different types. Also, other reasons, this is me and Mike West. This is us. This is a picture of us becoming best friends right here.
All right.
He bought me ice cream on this trip. It was really nice. I think he's there right now. Vendeline, he's also online. We've also become best friends on these mats. I think, or John Larson, he's not here, but on the Davis mat, I played board games with him. And now we're like doing this big project together where we applied for a grant and everything together. So I think you can make lasting relationships on these trips that are really meaningful. And I really have grown to like appreciate and respect and just become closer with a lot of the people that we're working with through these trips. So who is it for? As I said before, government staff, elected officials, local and state. I think one goal that we have at Bike Utah is to get more state legislators out, especially with the UTN project, so they can kind of understand the spectrum of possibilities that exists out there. But also locally, and we always love having local folks there. Also, one thing that I remember in the Davis mat that was really cool was in Davis, California, they had their engineers, and then we had engineers from Utah, and they were like asking questions to the local engineers, like questions that I can't answer, like how do you maintain this? And so you can ask people within that context that is new to you, that speak your same language, how do you like deal with this? So that's really great. So where to next? You can join us in the land of no traffic related deaths. Hoboken, no joking. That's where we're going. Yeah, we've really upped our graphic design at Bike Utah. We have a graphic designer now. So if anybody wants to hire us for bike-related graphic design, it's gonna be you. Okay. Yeah, that's the plan. Go to Hoboken. So for the past 7 years. Hoboken.
Not Hoboken.
I am from New Jersey, so it's great to see that you're going there. It's Hoboken.
Okay. Hoboken.
Hoboken.
Am I still saying it wrong? I'm not gonna ever say it again. That H place. It's like I will say like Parowan because I like did a project in Parowan, and people will keep saying Parowan, and I'm like, no, it's Parowan. Like that's what they say there, you know? Like
It's okay. I said Thule when I first moved here, so.
yeah.
You probably said Hooper also.
What's the Manaway? That one's weird. It's like Mantua. Sorry if it's blasphemy. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, we're going to this H place, and they haven't had a traffic related death in 7 years, and they look like this. So like with all this chaos, how do they do it? I don't know. Let's answer that question. We can go out there. We'll coordinate with government staff. They'll answer questions, give us a tour, show us what they've been doing to make this possible. The dream is alive. We can also have it. So discussion time. Any questions before we move on about the H word place?
When are you planning this trip?
Yeah, I actually have flyers, but I think that was asked online. So that we're planning in April, so budget for it.
Sweet, looks awesome.
I think for the people who aren't here, we're talking about maybe like 1,200, something like that, just to be safe. Yeah, you could probably do it really cheap, like sleep in a tent or something. I don't know. So discuss.
Is the idea to fly into New York City? Okay. Does anybody, who knows where Hoboken is? Oh, good. Hoboken is right over the Hudson River from Manhattan. So is the idea to fly into New York City and then get to Hoboken?
What do you say, Hugh?
I think we'll look for the cheapest tickets out there, wherever that lands us to get into the H place. We'll make it happen.
In April. Okay, great.
I'll
go to Hoboken in April.
Just for our own benefit, I had some questions, and if nobody answers them, I'm gonna look at Hugh for some answers. And this is actually because I want to like improve the mats. What are some transportation obstacles in your community that you would like to learn how other communities have solved them?
But I think one of the biggest ones is the summer to winter transition. So the fear of communities and having to purchase specialized equipment to take care of protected bike lanes, or what happens to bollards that might be bolted down that have to be removed. That the Minnesota mats were pretty eye-opening on that, just the level of commitment to installing and removing temporary permanent infrastructure and fixtures there. So what do they do on those transition periods or shoulder seasons or something to keep them open, keep them effective, safe, whatever? Or are these facilities, not necessarily full year round?
Okay, cool. Any other questions or
Question.
Yeah.
I always have lots of questions, but my thing I like to understand more, especially with other cities, is the most important thing is road design and how it circulates. So I'm very curious, especially with places like Hoboken. I probably said it wrong too, but how they circulate and deal with traffic and how they try and deal with driver behaviors and stuff like that.
Great. By the way, I learned Tagalog, and like when people would say words to me, I'm like, you're saying it the same like as I'm saying it. That's what it sounds like when you say it. It just sounds like what I'm. All right. One last question. Do local or out-of-state mats appeal to you more, and why?
I think there's a benefit to out of state, in the fact if it's local, there's a tendency to get busy, right? If another meeting pops up. So you have the group's undivided attention for a day or a day and a half or 2 days, however long we decide to do these in the past. So, I mean, I like those. We get to see something outside of our area. I mean, obviously on the counter side, locals great because you can get more people there. It's easy to do a half day, not a big time or money commitment, but I don't know, out of state seems to generate, at least in my mind, some of the biggest ideas. Back on your discussion one, we did a Boise mat, and that's where Mayor Silvestrini and like 4 or 5 other mayors from Central Salt Lake County went. And as we were eating pizza that night, they decided, you know what, we should just do a joint active transportation master plan. And then they applied for our transportation land use connection program. It was funded, and I think they've recently completed that. So, some ideas and just coordination when you're out, not even on the bike and you're just sitting around a table, comes from these mats. So
It's the Mike West effect, as I like to call it. Cool.
I think that there's a really good benefit to going to a location you haven't been and using, it's a good way to test how well the facilities work, because you don't know how to navigate the area. So you're really relying on the infrastructure, the wayfinding signage, also just not just how like bicycles and pedestrians are controlled, but also how cars are controlled, and just understanding from like a totally different perspective how effective it is.
Cool. Thank you. Hugh was doing this sign at me like 5 minutes ago, so it's been great.
Thank you for that update and for the understanding of how important a mat is. And I think knowing that the South mayors got together, I'm going to accept that as a challenge for those up north. I think we got to work on that as well. So anyway, with that, let's go ahead and go on to item number 5, which is our TLC projects for 2024 and our North Ogden highlights. So we'll now be able to hear from Byron Head about the 2024 transportations and the land use connection projects. And then following him, we'll hear from Scott Hess on the North Ogden City and their active transportation planning that they've done so far. So go ahead, Brian.
Great, thanks everyone. My name is Byron Head. I am a community planner in our Community and Economic Development Group here at WFRC. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the TLC program overall and then highlight our recently selected TLC projects that have an active transportation link. So the TLC program overall is technical assistance for anything from plans and studies to actually implementing the ideas that we come up with as planners. And the goals of that program are to maximize the value of investment in public infrastructure, enhance access to opportunities, provide transportation options, and create communities that have opportunities to live, work, and play. And we do this in partnership with UDOT, UTA, and Salt Lake County. This year, I'm excited to announce that we've funded 1.7 or over $1.7 million in project funds, leveraging just over $200,000 in local funds to provide that match. We have 11 projects overall, pretty even mix of 5 in Salt Lake, West Valley urban area, 5 in Ogden, Layton urban area, and then 1 in Tooele, or Thule, as you may know it. Of that 1.7 million, almost 2/3 are on projects that have an active transportation nexus. We have 7 of those, 5 in Salt Lake, West Valley urban area, and 2 in the Ogden, Layton urban area. The first one is Bluffdale Active Transportation Plan. Through this project, they're hoping to address some significant east-west barriers in the city and coordinate with the Point and the new front runner station that are planned to be developed in the imminently. We also have 2 projects in Midvale. The first one is a Parks and Open Space Plan that also has a very strong active transportation element. So they're not just connecting their parks, but how can linear parks play a role in the transportation network overall and get to other destinations such as our Wasatch Choice Centers. The second Midvale project is a feasibility study for the alignment of the Porter Rockwell Trail. The map shows it just along the UTA right of way, but the study will, see if that's really the best way to do it, or if there are other opportunities to make that trail connection through the city while maintaining the important access to UTA transit stops at Fort Union and Center Street. Riverton is doing an AT and a combined transportation and active transportation master plan, updating their previous plan, and again, focusing on connecting to destinations and words we would like to see reducing VMT, and yeah, just creating more ways to ride your bike or walk to accomplish your daily needs. And then finally, in the Salt Lake urban area, Salt Lake City, this project is special to me because I actually used to live right along this corridor until very recently. But this will take their street typologies guide, which they adopted, I believe, in 2019, and really kind of dig into one of their typology concepts, which is this Grand Boulevard idea, and apply it to this one-way couplet, 5th and 6th South, and try and make it more of like a European style Grand Boulevard to match the ongoing development that's happening along the corridor. And then up in Davis County, we have Clearfields. They're doing their first standalone transportation master plan, and a big focus on implementing the projects that were identified previously in the North Davis AT plan. And finally, we have Davis and Weber County working together on the 3-Gate Trail. It was mentioned earlier as part of the Utah Trail Network. This will focus a lot on the economic impacts of the trail and how it can really benefit businesses in the cities that it runs through, and also, providing access to Hill Air Force Base. We have a new map on our website. You may have been familiar with the old map, but this new map is new and improved. And you can find out more information about all of the projects that we've done throughout the, I believe, 11-year history of the program through our website, wfrc.org/TLC. And reminder that, it seems like applications are always imminent, but this one is application letters of intent are going to be due in September. So start thinking about what projects your community may have that may be a good fit for this program, or also want to put in a plug for UDOT's Technical Planning Assistance Program, which we make our awards in conjunction with. Any questions for me? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Scott. All right.
All right, thank you. Scott, you want to take it away?
All right, thank you, everybody. It's nice to be back. I actually worked here in 2015, spent 5 years with Wasatch Front Regional Council, and I think since I left that I haven't actually been back in the building since 2020. So it's a nice homecoming to come back to. It feels a little bit strange. So today we're going to talk about North Ogden City's Active Transportation Wayfinding System Plan. I realize that we're a little short on time, so I'll try to hit the highlights. And as I put this presentation together, I tried to think about the things that are either unique or lessons learned as we've watched several active transportation plans happen across the region. So back in 2015, I remember Jim Price. If you don't know him, he was this tall. He showed a map that was really embarrassing to me, which was the number of active transportation plans completed in Utah County compared to Salt Lake, Weber, Davis, Morgan, and Tooele County. And it was like all of them and 2. It was literally like 0. So we started working. The TLC program has been just a force in creating active transportation plans with local communities. And as you've seen in the just in one that was recently funded, you've got transportation plans that are active transportation plans. You have AT plans that might be PED focused. You've got AT plans that are signage focused, implementation. So they come in many, many forms. And ours came in the form of a combined transportation and wayfinding system plan that, to WFRC's credit, they helped us kind of extract our city's project out of a multi-city project and combine it with some wayfinding funding that we had. I do want to just briefly mention our steering committee and our acknowledgements, so mayor and council, of course, city staff, but our consulting group is a wonderful group of folks from parametrics. Christy Dahlberg is our project manager from WFRC, and the funding allocation in total is $90,000. That was approximately $30,000 on the wayfinding and signage, and then $60,000 that was carved out of a multi-city project that we were extracted out of at the time. Chris, perfect timing, doing the mobile active transportation tour presentation. We did a mini mat, and here I'm sure I'm waxing eloquently, or just, you know, I can hardly shut up most of the time. And this gentleman over on the side with his arms crossed, I tried so hard to get him on a bike. That's Ty Nicotera. He's one of our public works guys. Like, he's the guy that crawls down in the hole and fixes the water leak that's like shooting up out of the ground. He followed us. He was a support car, and there was no way in the world he was getting on a bike, but I tried so hard. Through generous donations of our community members, our city council members, we had staff members. We actually had e-bikes donated, available, pumped up, ready to go with helmets at the city hall. So all anybody had to do was just show up. And we have a group of people. We've got Kai Toanaka with parametrics here. Christy's here in this, right front and center is Chris Chestnut with UDOT. And then we have our public works director and a handful of other folks. And I think to me, the best outcome of this is that one of the people in this picture is Sarah Lansing, who's on our trails committee. She put her bike on her car, drove it to City Hall, and then in the course of doing this tour, rode past her house. And she was like, oh, that was really easy. Like, I don't know how many people know North Ogden, but we're right here. And it's like the elbow crook of the mountain, basically. I mean, there's 50% of the city is almost perfectly flat, like it's difficult to drain water off of it. And 50% of the city is just straight up a hill. So there's a visual barrier, there's a mental barrier for people. And this tour was instrumental in showing folks that even a community with hills, especially with e-bikes, is totally rideable. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable. The active transportation plan, there are kind of two elements. So we'll start, we have, of course, the plan. That's not one of the unique elements here. We're focusing on connecting communities. We're looking at east and west, north and south. There are definitely hillside challenges that we have. Does this have well, it does have maybe the pointer won't show up on the TV, but we have this, is a canal trail that connects Pleasant View City, North Ogden, and Ogden City. And the nice thing about canals and railroad beds is that they are relatively flat, or they might run at like 1.5%, 2%, something like that. So that's essentially an elevation line for the city. And then Mountain Road, which is the next one up, that's a purple line, again, is sort of an elevation. So you can think of the city as having these topo lines that run this way. So from east to west in central city up in the residential areas, you connect 5 parks, a junior high, an elementary school, and it's a short ride from there downhill to 2 grocery stores, civic center, library. And it really, North Ogden is a much easier place to ride a bike than you would think about, especially when you just come into town. The plan itself is broken into 3 different elements. There's priority projects. These would be project 1. The number one thing I would say about doing an active transportation plan is don't just put lines on a map. What we have done and what parametrics has really focused on are funding assumptions. And the funding assumptions are good, and they've been ground truth with our public works director and our city engineer, who are familiar with projects and have looked at them. So each one of these projects is parsed out into what we thought would be reasonable distances, and then given a funding amount so that we can tie it back to our capital improvement plan. And there's a set of core projects, and then there's a set of secondary projects. And so you have a way to kind of start to tick this off the list as you tie it to your capital improvement planning and programming. And I didn't point it out. I mean, Dave Espinoza, our public works director, was there, as well as Eric Casperson, our city engineer. But they were embedded in the project from the beginning. So they knew it was coming. They've been thinking about how their capital improvement plan and capital funding is going to tie into this. And we've been kind of pulling that along even into the FY25 budget for what we're going to do next. Then the wayfinding system plan. So again, lines on a map are great, but it's amazing how much just knowing that seeing a sign and then being somewhere else in the city and seeing that same sign gives somebody visual recognition that that's a trail that I know where it's going to go. And that cross canal trail, there are people who have lived in North Ogden their entire life who have never been on it, and also who don't realize that when they cross it at every major north-south street in the city, that it's the same facility connecting each other. Started out, we had a public process, we chose colors and we put some information together. We've got the full signage span here, but one really cool thing, and I'm going to show you a spreadsheet with far too much data. No, I'll do that second. So what we're doing is we created a pilot program. So staff went out and rode this. This connects. This is the Civic Center. This connects 2 elementary schools, a junior high, the Civic Center, which includes our grocery store, community center, library, and then north up the hill, picks up the canal trail, comes down, and it hits about 5 parks and a few pieces of existing infrastructure. We have, this is the largest spreadsheet, each one of these points on the map is actually a specific sign that's tied back to this sign scheme here that are currently funded and ready to print in FY25. So we, again, by putting this project together at the time that we did and had our budget discussions, our streets lead was willing to take this on. It was about $8,000 total to purchase signs and look at the installation and what they're going to do. And one really neat thing that's new is the farthest right time is we're putting in e-bike time. So we went out and ground truth this. I mean, I rode it and we've walked several of these routes. So we did try to figure out beyond just what Google Maps would tell you, what the analytics would tell you. And Parametrics did an amazing job. But then we did it on an e-bike, and it's embarrassing how fast some of the places you can get to are on an e-bike. Like some of these say 1 minute. It's like you're literally just like a throttle drive away between the connections. But this level of detail is so helpful in our implementation. So not only do we have a sign scheme, we have a sign scheme tied to where those signs are going to go, the directions they go, it's clear, it's obvious. And then we have all of the information on there to include all of our destinations, and it's now funded. So, and we haven't even adopted the plan yet. So this is all sort of happening in progress as we go. So our final slide as we get here, the next steps, we're looking at adoption of summer of 2024. WFRC was, North Ogden was fortunate to receive 2 WFRC TLC grants. We've also done a small area plan that is completed. MHTN was our project manager on that one. And we'd like to bring these both through the council process at the same time to reduce confusion, and also, budget season just kind of sucks all the air out of the room for local communities at times. So we're going to do this in the summer. But we have the pilot signs, they're funded. They're currently, tonight is our adoption of our kind of pre-adoption of our budget, and the signage is in there in our capital facilities plan. We have aligned those priority projects with our capital plans. So we know at least over the next 5 years what major striping projects, overlay projects will happen. Our streets lead is in there. He spends all of our B and C road funds, and even just simple projects like saying, hey, are you willing to look at this plan when you're doing your striping programming for the next year? And he is committed to doing that. And then, of course, additional grant opportunities. Always used to love to say that like good planning leads to better grants. When when I worked here, and if you had an active transportation plan, your likelihood of getting an implementation grant was higher. Same here. So we were funded in, it's 3 years out, so I think it's a 2026 TAP program to improve the trail crossings on that canal trail at 3 of our major north-south and 1 east-west crossing, where we need more than just a pedestrian button. They're going to be full overhead crossing improvements on a major east-west canal trail in the city. So with that, I'd say do a mini mobile active transportation tour, get people out, put more than just a line on the map, definitely program what those lines look like. And signage is huge. I mean, I feel like wayfinding and signage, it's a small component often compared to the overall cost of these plans. and it immediately will make your system so much more usable. So those are kind of my takeaways, and happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir. Blaine.
Go ahead.
Do you have, do you do any of your trail networking with the Northern Utah Trails Foundation?
We haven't so far. I mean, well, that's not true. We do, but North Ogden is we're a destination community, and not in that you're trying to get there. It's that you have to choose to get there. Like, it's not a pass-through community. It's not one that you just find yourself in. You have to, drive north out of Ogden. So the former Weber Pathways has really focused on, I'd say, the more visual trails, or the trails that you see. We have a little bit on North Ogden Divide. That's a Weber County road. So that, gets you up over into Huntsville and Eden, that area. But as far as anything in North Ogden, that Weber Canal, or that trail on the canal, would probably be our greatest like sub-regional facility. And it's largely there and planned. Good question though.
Hey, any other questions? Okay, thank you. That was a good
Thanks.
presentation,
Thank
and
you all.
you do have a great city. I'm up there quite a bit. Okay, let's go ahead and go on then to our community highlight with Draper's Trails. This year we'll be hearing from a lot of local communities, not just on their planning efforts, but also on the existing active transportation network. So today we're going to hear from Rhett Ogden with Draper City, so Rhett, go ahead and, yes.
Hey, Rhett, sorry to interrupt. There's a button on that mic, and then it will turn it green. You good? Okay, perfect.
It's just like the ones I use every week in city council. I should have known that. So, as I was saying, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. I guess as a community highlight, to talk a little bit about what we've been trying to do in Draper City. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I brought a few slides. I've been with Draper City as the Parks and Recreation Director for going on 16 years. In that time, we've had a big emphasis on trails, both for recreation, for pleasure, for moving people, both walking, biking. We recently just this last fall adopted a brand new Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan, which took a lot of time, but a very good plan that our Mayor and City Council adopted. Within the last few years, we did our active transportation plan. So I think we have a lot of good things going in Draper. We've tried to have a big emphasis on trails, to the credit of Mayor Walker, and even before Mayor Walker, Mayor Smith, and numerous city council members who have seen the vision. Give them a lot of credit to letting us accomplish some of our goals as regarding trails. So when I got asked to come be the highlight, I went 100 different directions what I could tell you about Draper City Trails. I thought we had a lot to offer, but I thought we'd just hit a few of our current plans or what we're working on. This is just a fun picture that several years ago, I contracted with a guy that lived in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, to do a map of our trails. This is both the Corner Canyon area and a lot of the city trails, so both dirt trails and paved trails. But I only show it just because we actually have well, for several years, we've blown this up on Tyvek paper, so it's waterproof, it's rip proof, it's 2 foot by 3 foot, and we sell them in our office. And we get people from all over, not just Draper residents, but people come by these. They hang them in their homes, they frame them in their garage. It's been a neat thing to see. And I say that just because it just really shows that people care about trails, and they're willing to buy a trail map to hang up in their homes for personal use. I guess just a few things that I wanted to kind of show you. This is an overall map of our trails map. I don't know if you can see it very well, but a lot of the teal colored lines are all of our primitive trails, or we've noticed a lot of people actually using some of our trails to commute, especially if they live in the mountains, say Suncrest area. A lot of them are going by dirt trail to their jobs in Highland or down the other side of the mountain. Purple ones are ones that we have in place. I didn't put all of them in, but and then the dashed ones are the ones that we're hoping to get
funded here soon. Just look at a few of them. There's our existing and planned regional trail system. I'll just go through a few highlights here. So obviously in Draper, we're lucky enough to be part of the Jordan River Parkway. We partner with Salt Lake County to manage that. And it's a huge asset to our trail network, and it plays a big part. And a lot of what we're doing right now is centered around the Jordan River Trail. A few others, if you're not familiar. The Porter Rockwell Trail is kind of the heart of our city. It was one that was started before I came to work with Draper. It's a fantastic trail. It connects the whole city and it gets used like crazy. Our trail counts are off the charts when you get to the Porter Rockwell Trail. So it's done. This last year we did a big paving project to repave a large section of it. We had to spend a lot of money. If you're familiar with the floods that we had last August in Draper that wrecked a lot of the trail. So that's all been fixed. Just shows a big emphasis to make sure that these things stay in place and get used a lot. Our Point of the Mountain Trail, interesting about that. We had the Porter Rockwell, which goes, into Sandy, and then we finished the Point of the Mountain Trail, which takes off from the Porter Rockwell Trail and goes all the way to the border of Salt Lake, Utah County, where it joins up to Lehigh. And then it just ended there for several years. And I kind of kept prodding Lehigh and some of the people there, like, we need to get this done. And as you may know, a few years ago, we actually finished that trail with Lehigh, and we put I just found a local company. I bought a big monument that we embedded in the asphalt. If you walk or ride your bike, you'll see that big monument that we called the Golden Spoke, because in reality, what that did by merging that trail right here is you could ride your bike from Sandy all the way up to Provo Canyon, or get down to Utah Lake and never leave an asphalt trail. So it was a huge connection. So thought it was worth a nice bronze monument. But these are just some of the things we've worked on and kind of can highlight in Draper City. A few others to share with you. This is actually the Draper Sandy Canal Trail we finished a few years ago that goes off into the eastern part of the city. It's been a great addition. This is what we have mostly done, this east-west trail connector, but on the next slide, I'll show you some of the pinch points we're working on. But from Porter Rockwell Trail down to the Jordan River Trail is a huge connection. We're missing a little piece of it that I'll show you, but most of that system is in between Porter Rockwell Trail, what we call the Phoebe Brown Trail, which we named after some of the earlier settlers of Draper, Willow Springs trails. We get down on the east side, like Bricker Haven Trail, stuff like that, all connect to the east and west part of Draper. It's a huge connection that we're working on. Bonneville Shoreline Trail, everyone's familiar with that. It is a dirt trail, but it gets used a ton. We've tried to finish a lot of it that we can in Draper. Obviously, when we get around the point, that part is not done yet. That's going to be a challenge getting through the Geneva property and some areas there. So we still need to figure that out. We've worked with Lehigh. We've done some land adjustment to get a lot of it in down there. Then when we come back into Draper, we've got that part finished. But one thing we're looking on is a crossing to get over Suncrest Drive to really make this trail very great to use to get around. So let me just share with you a few of the things that we're working on to kind of complete that regional trail system. This first one, when I said that you could go from Sandy to Provo on an asphalt trail, it was a little bit of a lie because there is a very short section. If you're familiar with Draper, right about the roundabout, just east of our city hall, we have a section where it's sidewalks that we're working on. We actually have this project funded. It's been funded for a while, but we've put it on hold just a little bit because we're in a town center redevelopment with UTA track station with some high density housing and stuff that may alter the path of this trail a little bit, but it is funded and it's one we're excited to get finished here soon. A few other pinch points that we're working on is Most of that yellow line you can see in our east-west trail connector is finished, other than over I-15. Other than we have a section of about 12 homes along the canals that for various reasons we've held off on doing. It is funded, but we're waiting further direction from our city administration to finish it, but that's what we're working on. And once that's in, we'll have majority of that connection done. This is one that I feel, and my department and our city just feel this is a really important one. We need to study. We've talked with WFRC, with you about maybe partnering with TLC programs, but to really study how we can cross I-15. We don't have a great way to cross. We have trails that go right up to it on both sides, but especially with Bangor Highway, if you're familiar with that interchange, it wasn't built with pedestrian crossing at all, and it's just very unsafe when people try and do it. So to really connect the east and the west, we have a really good trail system going on the west side of Draper now, and we just need to find a way to connect our trails. I also know we're in conversations with the Point, and I know that we're going to be trying to have a trail connection from the Point up to Corner Canyon as well, but this is one we really feel strong about trying to get connected. I did bring a slide at the end to maybe show you if you're interested. We do have a connection to the Jordan River. It's not our best one, so we do have this will be fairly easy. Probably the same project. Those last two bubbles would connect to the Jordan River Trail. So they're ones that we're working on. I mentioned getting through Geneva is tough, but just for the Point of the Mountain Trail, we've got to figure some of those out, and we're happy for any suggestions. But and then also this might be of more interest to MAG since it's on Utah County side, but we really need to have a study to finish the Bonneville Shoreline Trail in that section and connect it up into Alpine where we've got done. But so just a few connections there that we're working on. I didn't put it on here, but just for your information, I know this isn't great for online. We do have a lot of that finished. If you're familiar with just east of the Jordan River Trail on 7th West, we're putting in a brand new park. We have a trail finished up to the park coming from the south, and then from the north through the new Ivory development, we finished all the way to 114th South. So again, we've got just a small section of trail that we'll be finishing. Well, we're in phase 1 to construct the park, which should be done in July, and then we'll start phase 2, which is actually cleaning up the creek bed and putting the trail in. So within the next year, that should be done. But really, that'll give us a new connection from 114th South into South Jordan, all the way through Draper, down past 123rd into Galena Park, which is our biggest park. And then from there, you can hop on to two different options. You can use the bridge that we put in a few years ago over the canal to get onto the Jordan River. So there's that short little park around our new park that we're finishing, but we're very excited about it. It'll be a huge connection. It was found worthy enough that we got some funds from TRCC grant funds from Salt Lake County to finish that project for a new trail connection. So anyway, I know we're short on time. There's just one that we were looking at. This is two alternatives we've studied a little bit to get over I-15, but we really feel in Draper, that's one of our really big goals is we need to figure out how to get over I-15. Not a lot of communities have it. We don't all have the money like you see the bridge in Orem that connects UVU to, on the west side, but something like that, it's a big dream. There's other options to cantilever on the Bangor Parkway and make a new trail. So we really just need to get some funds to study some crossings, but I really feel it'd really connect Draper east to west. We've done fairly well getting north to south. We've done fairly well with our primitive trails that we get people come really all over the country coming to Draper now to ride their bike. So we're excited. We're happy to work with WFRC and various agencies that we do, but we have a lot of work to do. So anyway, that's just a little highlight of Draper. I could talk forever about our trails, but I know we're short on time, so I won't. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But I hope that was what we were looking for. But.
Yeah, no, that was a very good in-depth presentation. So thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions? Go ahead.
This is fantastic and really impressive. One of the questions I've got, I think you mentioned the point a few times. I know that when they talk about what they're doing, they really emphasize active transportation and how that will help them draw skilled labor. And, backing up, this is one of, if not the biggest economic development opportunity in the whole state. So can you talk a little bit about what are your collaborative activities with the point to get active transportation that connects? I don't know if you're exploring across the highway there, or if you're exploring west connections to the Jordan River, or what's in the midst there?
Yeah, it is a huge project, and it'll be really neat to see how it all shakes out. I've met with them several times. We used to have biweekly meetings. There is, in the point you may have heard of, it's called the River to Range Trail, which will be a fantastic trail, which really will connect Corner Canyon and, parts of Draper where it enters across I-15 over to the point. And then from there, we have connections going to the Jordan River Trail, to some of our other trail networks. So we've worked with them a lot on that. We've worked with them a lot on our park system. We've tried to help them understand, like, well, if 15,000 people are going to be living here, and, and the design is to not really have to go outside the city, we need to provide for everything. So we've worked with them on their trail networks, on the different parks, on recreation fields, on different amenities. We still have some unanswered questions with the point of, speaking for Draper City, if how it all shakes out and who's going to take care and maintain what, who's going to pay for it, stuff like that, because it is state-owned property. So we're working on some of that stuff, but we do share a common vision and goal that it needs to be a very friendly area for active transportation, and be able to walk, go for a run, ride your bike, whatever you choose, and be able to get to many destinations from the point. So we are certainly working with them on that. I hope that answers your questions. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. In fact, that was a perfect segue on our last item here, which is Move Utah, which is all about walking, biking, and connecting the communities with planning programs. So with that, UDOT's done a great job on that, but we've got Jared Bowling with us that's going to tell us more about the Move Utah.
Yeah, thank you. First, I just wanted to say it's great to see Scott back. Back years ago, Scott was holding my hand as we were developing our active transportation plan in Riverton. So I appreciate seeing you back, and appreciate seeing him here. And really just want to reiterate, be intentional with your AT plans. Don't just put lines on a map. Plan, let's program, let's make sure we're connecting to these amazing facilities, as Andrew mentioned, the UTN. So to go in a little bit about Move Utah's new strategic direction, we're in the final stages of developing this plan. Jordan, if you want to go to the next slide. We did a SWOT analysis to really kind of break down, and we heard a lot of the challenges that communities are having. And as part of our kind of restructuring, we're taking a lot of that into consideration and really emphasizing taking those next steps. We feel that wayfinding is a great way to implement those plans and take that next step to ensure that you're not just putting lines on a paper, but planning and making a complete network. And so just as you go over this analysis, if you happen to see anything outside of this that you'd like to point out, please feel free to contact me. I know we're running short on time, so I won't be as engaging as I was planning, but we'd love to hear some of the challenges, some of the strengths and opportunities that maybe your community has missed, that we might be able to help and fill that gap.
Jared, can I just point out in the opportunities here relevant to this conversation, you have on there improved partner collaboration. And we feel like we've got great coordination with UDOT already, but there's always room for enhancement. And then also fostering stronger relationship with locals. So back to the point we were talking about before with Steph and Hugh and everything, that coordination among all the parties to make sure we're all moving in the same direction is reflected in your opportunities here.
Yeah, and I appreciate you pointing that out. There's going to be a lot of coordination with Move Utah moving forward between Utah Trail Network, between our local communities. You know, we want to provide that support and connection to those resources. There's a lot of funding opportunities, and WFRC does an amazing job providing that information out to the communities. We want to continue that throughout the state to ensure our rural communities also have those opportunities and are aware that they just don't necessarily may have those resources that we need. So Jordan, yeah, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So in our new direction, it's not really a new direction, but we're kind of identifying what those user groups are that are out participating in our facilities. Federal Highways started using rollers as rather than cycling, with the increase of scooters, one wheels, skateboards, skating. There's a lot of opportunity for the range out there. So we want to encompass all rolling activities. Within that, we're really focusing on, you know, pushing for the completion of AT plans throughout the state. We'd love to be a state that has an AT plan, or at least identified trails plan throughout the entire state for the whole country. I'm trying to do my best to highlight all the amazing highlights that we get through these committees on the federal level. So I appreciate all the hard work that's going on throughout the state, and we'll continue pushing that with our committee. The next one is pedestrians. This is just the general pedestrian group. We also have additional groups that we're going to be focusing on a little more, but we've got such a great cycling network. And as we're looking at throughout the state, we're finding there's a lot of gaps in our walking network, whether it's sidewalk gaps, just no sidewalks at all throughout a large portion of roadway. We really want to identify those, and currently we're working on connections to transit and trying to find those gaps throughout the community. So if you're aware of gaps in your community, please feel free to send those over. We are doing an analysis right now and would love to get information on that. We're pretty close to being done throughout the Salt Lake County area, but as we expand throughout the state, definitely would encourage you to provide us with any of that GIS data. Our next group we really want to focus on is individuals with disabilities and limited mobility. As we're looking at, you know, projects like connections to transit, we're noticing that there's a lot of sidewalks that just end and go to nowhere. And we want to be, as we stated, intentional in those efforts. And there are funding opportunities within UDOT for those connections. If you do have, you know, if you are aware of those gaps throughout your community, please feel free to reach out. Move Utah, we really want to provide those connections to resources. And there's a lot of them throughout the state and throughout the nation that we're wanting to make sure we can connect locally with. Another group is the elderly. We have a very large, I didn't want to highlight Jory, but I know that is. We have a large aging population throughout the state, and we really want to be intentional about our efforts in our AT facilities. You know, what are those important connections for the communities that, you know, are they able to actually connect? And that's both walking and cycling. And what are some of those challenges? We do have two projects internally within UDOT that I'm going to be running that focus on individuals with disabilities amongst our facilities, so UTN facilities, as well as potential for sidewalks, so that we can identify those barriers that individuals with disabilities and limited mobility, specifically elderly with maybe a walker, might have. So we want to connect with communities on those opportunities and provide that data. And finally, with youth, as I've talked with some of our high school students throughout the state, they're not planning on getting their driver's license. There's a large group that's coming into the workforce that is choosing not to drive. And going back to making sure that we're being intentional with our planning and programming, we need to be aware of those folks and what we can do to support them in our infrastructure. So we're looking at making those connections and trying to understand that that group a little more and be more intentional with our communication for our partners. So hopefully any of the data that we provide, we're looking at doing a website revamp, and a lot of these resources and connections are going to be on Move Utah's website. As I said, as we're going through this process, would love to hear any feedback, any recommendations, anything that you as a local community could benefit Move Utah providing. And we will be linking with our amazing partners. You know, I'd like to call out, obviously, Bike Utah, Chris Wiltsey, and all the amazing work that they do, and Get Healthy Utah. We do have a Connected Community Summit coming up in September, and would love to have more local participation. We're going to have a variety of individuals from different fields, obviously representing Bike Utah, Get Healthy Utah, really viewing our connections to our community through the lens of through the health lens, as I say that backwards. We want to be kind of more focused and connected with our community. And so this is a great opportunity for you to get connected with other cities, other engineers, other industries that may be affected by your local planning, your local transportation networks, and how can we find those solutions? So just had to plug that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And not to belabor the meeting, but is there any other questions anybody has, or any other business you want to take care of?
I just really quick follow-up to Jared's presentation. Thank you so much, Jared, for all the work you're doing. And as you're talking about people who either can't drive or choose not to drive, I'm thinking, Dee Dee, about UTA and the obvious importance of thinking about the active transportation, trails, sidewalks, and then the availability of transit. And so it's really a system that has to work together, and it does in a lot of places, and we're all working to make it work even better. The first last mile design around stations, making sure people have access to stations. So you got to think about it as you can't just think about one in isolation, thinking about all of them together. And I know that you are, and we are.
Okay, I think that's the general theme of today's meeting, is how we collaborate with one another, but more importantly, working together and outside of your own arena, which is the purpose of actually what Wasatch Front Regional Council does for all of us. So we appreciate you guys being the hub of all of us spokes out there. Okay, so just a quick reminder that our next meeting will be August 13th. Again at 9:15, and then a couple of upcoming events that's going to be taking place. We have the Wasatch Front Economic Development District meeting, which will be on June 13th at 1:30. The Wasatch Front Regional Office will be closed on Monday, the 17th, in observance of Juneteenth holiday, which I know pretty much all the cities are as well. I know we are in Layton, but you know, I think pretty much everybody's acknowledging that Monday. And then in addition, on June 20th at 1:30 is the Transportation Coordination or Transcom meeting here. And then the last one is, again, as mentioned earlier, we've got Community Summit, which is September 18th and 19th. So with that, if there's no other further business, I'll acknowledge an adjournment. Jeff, you're late. Come on. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you everyone online as well, and continue to have a great week.